From the beautiful campus of Casper College, it's the T-Birds Coaches Show, bringing you game breakdowns, expert analysis, and exclusive interviews. Here's your host, Tom Myler.
Hello, T-Bird fans, and welcome to, of course, another fantastic episode of our Casper College Coach Show. With us once again is Coach Tom Parks. Welcome back, Coach.
Thank you. I thought we already started the show like 15 minutes ago.
Well, we just have too much fun, so it just feels that way.
Okay.
But no.
Okay, cool. Glad.
I mean, we could talk about rocks, we could talk about all sorts of things, sushi, blah, 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 but let's talk about some basketball.
Cool. I'm down.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I have a feeling you're a rock guy.
I'm a rock guy.
You are a rock guy. What's your favorite rock?
I enjoy finding agates.
Agates, they're pretty cool. What's the unique thing about agate that makes it so cool?
Well, I think you told me that before the show started about something they can't have dirt attached to them or something.
It's true. So what I learned about agates is that they're just, I don't know if it's necessarily the polish or what it is, but dirt does not attach to it. So it can just stay just shiny.
Well, they do look like polished rocks when you find them. That's why I like them, because and if you polish them, they look pretty cool too. But you don't have to. A lot of people don't like
extra
to polish
them
because they're
pretty shiny.
fairly polished.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about a different kind of rock.
Cool.
A basketball rock.
Oh, nice. Good transition.
Thank you. I like it. I thought about that only for a couple hours last night. Might have lost a few hours of sleep, but here we are. So I thought a pretty good weekend. This last weekend in Gillette. You beat Miles. You beat North Dakota State College of Science.
Nice.
Thank you. I've been also practicing that one. Maybe I didn't sleep last night. Who knows? So you beat Miles 104-97. Thought it was a good game. Maybe, I have a feeling you're going to say this, maybe not a whole lot of defense on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, no. We didn't play a lot of defense. I actually thought defensively we weren't awful. I think we struggled scoring a little bit, which is weird. I know we scored, 107 or whatever it was, but I think
and you're still shooting 46%.
Yeah. We turned the ball over too much. I think we had 18 that game.
Yeah.
And so I think that was something that, and we've talked about it, but when you give the other team the ball, that's one less time you get to shoot. So when you do that 18 times, there's a bunch more shots that could have gone in, especially like when you said when you're shooting well from the field. So, but yeah, and I think it's hard when you have success against a team once, and then to go in and we've talked about that as well, and then have success again in the same way. And I will say, I mean, Miles is a good basketball team, and that's something that it shows, especially with the way that they came out and the adjustments they made. I mean, the night before we played them, they led Gillette by 2 or 4 with like 10 to play in the second half after Gillette had beat them by 40 the first time. So,
wow.
I think that just shows like the sign of a good team when you're able to like learn from the film and learn from the first time you played them and then go through and have more success. I mean, I know they would have obviously wanted to win those games, but Miles is a good team and they'll be very competitive in that region.
Yeah, I mean, I always forget that this was the second time again that you played them. Both times have been close. And I mean, I think the one thing looking at the stats again, those offensive rebounds, I think you almost 3 times as many offensive rebounds. And it's like, I think that was the difference. Like you were shooting 46-ish%. The 3-point percentage, I think, was a little bit lower than we're used to, which is fine. I think you're about 60 or 70% from the free throw line, which once again can be improved. Right. But it's those offensive rebounds that's giving you their second and third and fourth chances to make a bucket.
Yeah, I've been very pleased with our guys and just their effort on the offensive glass and on the defensive glass. I think that's the thing is anytime you can hold your opponents to one shot, but you can get multiple shots again. It's like how many I understand that the game is about getting stops and playing defense and those types of things, but I don't remember the exact quote. I mean, a lot of people say, offense wins games, defense wins championships, but I've heard defense wins games, rebounding is what wins championships, right? I mean, you never really see a poor rebounding team have a lot of success. And so I think that's really, I've been pleased with that because I think our guys have bought into that, and we talk a lot after the games, look at the stat sheet, and there's a lot of things you don't see in film, but rebounding is something you can look at the stat sheet and be like, okay, we rebounded well, we didn't rebound well. And, for the last however many games, I feel like we've really done a good job with that rebounding margin, but especially on the offensive rebounding end of the floor.
I mean, I feel like, if you want to talk about a buy-in, I feel just watching the games, this is a fun team to watch. Like they've really figured it out. I think they've gotten the offense going down. They're getting well with the press, and it's just, man, it's a really well-rounded team right now, and it can only get better, I'm hoping, from here.
Yeah, we've got a lot of depth, and I think there's even a lot of guys that aren't playing as much who you just never know how the course of the year is going to go and what we're going to need and, what growth certain players are going to have or what injuries we may have and things like that. And I think, there's a lot of players that I think are still itching for opportunities that can also contribute in the ways that we're trying to create our identity, but also in other ways. Like Rohan's someone that was here last year, and had kind of a rough start in terms of injuries. He was in a boot for like 6 or 8 weeks to start off the year, which is tough in the preseason when everyone's getting in shape and everyone's learning everything and you're sidelined in a boot. It's not an easy thing to do. And then comes back and has kind of been trying to find his way. And I think he's been starting to find his way and starting to figure out, okay, like maybe coach doesn't need me to score, but maybe coach needs me to go in there and play defense and rebound my butt off, and so I think we're starting to get guys to really buy into things that, maybe aren't the most ideal roles in the world, but I think that is what makes a special team is when people are willing to buy into something, but also as a staff and as teammates be able to make those people feel how valuable those roles are. If you're a red shirt and you got a sweatsuit on the bench, like how valuable is it for you to cheer for 40 minutes and how valuable is it for you to talk when our team's on defense on that end and let them know what the personnel is and let them know if there's a screen coming or someone's cutting. And I think we're starting to really show value in all those things. I think people are starting to feel that and be like, well, hey, if this is what the team needs me to do, I'm willing to do it.
Yeah. And, I want to ask the one question is, what would you say was your favorite moment from this Miles game? Whether it's just a series of moments, a favorite player that kind of stepped up.
Well, it'll be hard not to mention that Abdul had 47 points. So I'll say that.
That would be hard not to mention.
And we'll skip over that. But Abdul had 47. And I don't want to you just see things every day in practice. And so I hate to say this, but sometimes I'm just a little numb to what he does. Not saying it's not special.
Right.
But it's just when you see it every day, it's just like, oh, he just did it in the game today, instead of doing it in practice every day. Right. But I would say probably my favorite moment from the Miles game was, and we've talked about Nate Sasser.
Oh, yeah.
Nate Sasser had a rough first half. And with Nate Sasser, it's more of like the pace that he's playing at. He's super fast. He's very athletic. He's strong. But sometimes he doesn't utilize these unbelievable gifts he has. And so I may or may not have screamed at him a lot.
You got angry at him?
In the first half. I think most of the message was, I need you to stop acting like a little puppy out there. I need you to be a dog. You're right here. And I couldn't let it go. I kept yelling at him for 10 minutes. And then I went in the locker room at halftime and I kept yelling at him. And I love Nate Sasser.
Right.
And he knows that. But he started off the second half and just got the ball up the sideline with his dominant hand, his left hand, and he just goes up and he takes off outside the lane and just punches it. And I stare at him and I'm angry at him. I'm like,
it's like, why weren't you doing this?
Well, yeah, and then he gets another layup, he gets a putback dunk. But what I think the beautiful thing is that carried over into the next game.
Yes.
And that's carried over into practice. And, he just, I don't think he understands, he is a good basketball player. But when he really utilizes those physical tools he has, I don't think he understands how good he actually is. It's not how good he could be. It's how good he is if you just attack with that mentality and you sprint to close out and you run the floor and you crash the glass every time. And so that was probably just seeing him turn the corner. And again, going to keep trying to, have some consistency there with him because he is an X factor on our team.
Yeah. And even against North Dakota State College of Science, there was one, he gets the rebound, kind of turns around. You can see hey, what am I going to do with it? And he just takes off down the floor, goes coast to coast, splits the defender kind of towards his body a little bit, and somehow put enough, just touches it off the glass for a layup. But it's just
yeah,
where was this? That was amazing. Great job.
Yeah, and he had two monster dunks in that game in the North Dakota State College of Science game.
Yeah.
Two where you're just scratch your head and you're like, did that just happen? I mean, you know it's bad when the official kind of looks over at the bench and is like, did you just see, did that just happen? You know, because officials, you see a lot of things, you know what I mean? Especially you're, officiating junior college basketball. So, yeah, I mean, that was kind of fun to see him turn the corner. And, again, we talked about, like, I hate having to, like, yell at him to bring it out. And I've told him that multiple times, like, why do you have to make me be like this for you just to,
right?
And he told me, we're walking into, like, Ruby Tuesdays. Yeah, I took him to Ruby Tuesdays. Yeah. Sorry, Paul, that bill was a lot of money. But
nice.
Yeah, we took him to Ruby Tuesdays after the first game, and we're walking in, and I'm holding the door open for Nate Sasser, and he's like, yeah. It's like, my dad asked me, he's like, why was Coach Parks yelling at you? I'm like, oh, crap. And I was like, what'd you tell him? He's like, I told him why you were yelling at me. I was like, oh. He's like, what'd he say? He's like, oh. He's like, good. Yeah, he should yell at you for that. I'm like, thanks, Pops. But, yeah, I mean, that was probably my favorite moment, probably of the weekend.
Well, I mean, it was definitely for some excellent basketball. So that kind of leads us into the next game. I feel like you handled it very well. Once again, higher shooting percentage, kind of held them to lower. I mean, what do you want to say about this game? I thought it was well done.
Yeah, I thought we did what we have been stressing on the defensive end. We talked about it, like, if the press is working, great. If it's working to create pace, great. If teams aren't turning it over and they're breaking the press and they aren't taking a quick shot, how solid can we be on the defensive end? And I feel like we had a lot of pride individually and we had a lot of pride as a team. And those consecutive stops, we keep track of, we've talked about a kill, 3 stops in a row. And we had 4 in the first half. And they say if you have 4 in a game, you win the game. And we had 4 in the first half. So we have 4, times where we get 3 stops in a row. If you capitalize on 2 out of those 3 times, which usually if we're getting stops when we're running, we're getting a good shot. And so, those are really, I think, what contributes to runs. And we did a really good job at that in that game. It was really balanced. Ben had a double-double, 11 points, 11 rebounds. Yell was really good that game. Abdul chipped in. Ethan had, another big game, filled up a bunch of different stats. So I think those games are always fun. I mean, we did what we need to do. And again, traditionally a program that has been really, really good, and a first-year coach that's going to figure a lot of things out. Has a lot of pieces. I think he's just trying to figure out how to get them, to play, not together, but just to play within the system, right? And I think it's hard with how we defend. We trap people into doing things that maybe their coach doesn't want them to do, and take quick shots and ill-advised shots. But they have a lot of pieces, and so that was a good win, and it's fun to empty the bench, let a bunch of guys play, get reps. Again, you never know when you're going to really be counting on those people. It's fun to rest some guys. Nate Talich, I think, was out the whole second half. We were able to sit him, his shoulder. I mean, he played a lot of minutes, in the first 3 halves of that weekend. Abdul came out with like 10 minutes to play and didn't go back in. And so that was good to just get guys experience.
Well, good. Sounds like a great, solid win. I imagine you've come out of that still with some things to work on. Let's talk about this week. Today, you actually have a game. You're going to go to Western Nebraska. I feel like there's a little, probably for those that were here last year, maybe a chip on your shoulder from that because they're the ones that ended up eliminating you from the Region 9 or tournament play in the semifinals, which you were up, and then they come back and end up winning that one, which is kind of a bummer. But what can we expect today?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and we talked about this with our guys yesterday when we were watching film, yes, there's a number of you who weren't, in that locker room after the game. But, we talk a lot about tradition, and Casper College has a lot of tradition, and they've had a lot of players that have helped pave the way for the people on our team to be able to have the scholarships they have, to be able to get the recruitment that they get because coaches have had good experience recruiting people from Casper College at the 4-year level. And so I don't know. We owe it to last year's team. I'm not someone who lives in the past, but it was a very difficult loss for us. It was a very emotional loss. I thoroughly, and not saying I don't love this year's team, but I think that's something that grows. But by the end of the year last year, I mean that was one of my favorite teams, if not my favorite team to ever be around. Just the personalities, how much they cared for each other, and so that locker room. I hate that locker room. You know what I mean? I hate that gym, and just because of the emotions that are attached to what happened in the year. So I do think it's an obligation for our team to go in there and take care of business. Again, traditionally a team that's had a lot of success, another first-year coach, someone who I'm very good friends with, have known for a long time, who I respect, who's put in a lot of work to get to this point to be a head junior college coach. I mean, he was a long-time assistant, was assistant at Western Nebraska, assistant at LCCC, and assistant at Cowley Community College in Kansas. I mean, he's really put the time and the work, and is very deserving of this opportunity. They've played a very, very difficult schedule. They played CSI, they've played Salt Lake, they've played Snow, they've played Gillette. They don't have a lot of fluff games, if any, on their roster. They haven't had a ton of success, in those games. But I can tell you they're very battle tested. They don't care what our record is. They don't care how many points we're scoring. They're going to go in, very confident in this game. They are, I believe, 3-1 at home, so they've only lost one home game. As a team, they shoot 32% from three, but at home they shoot 42% from three. So they're going to shoot the ball better. They're probably going to get a few more calls. They're going to have a normal game day, routine, being that it's at their gym. And so, we're going to have to really lock in and do what we do and also be prepared to make changes because honestly, they've been, in terms of what they do, they've been a different team throughout the year. I just turned on the Gillette game and they zoned them and ran a set every time down the floor. This past weekend, they pressed for 40 minutes and took quick shots and turned teams over a bunch. So I don't really know what we're going to get. And so, I mean, the good thing about it is teams have zoned us. Teams have pressed us. Not very many. The teams have. We also go against the press every day in practice, so we have that advantage. We've had teams try to, bully Abdul and take him away. We've had teams do a lot of different things. So I think, we've seen a lot. So it'll be a lot of in-game adjustments. It's kind of one of those things we're going to throw the ball up. We're going to see what happens the first few minutes. And we're going to make those adjustments. And then we're going to know that could also change because they've done a lot of different things. Yeah. So
that's got to be really hard to look at. Just they've got so many different looks. How are they going to come out and defend you? How are they going to go against you on the offense? Are they going to try and ruin your tempo? That's got to be kind of rough as a coach. Just how do you prepare your players? They could come out with anything. Be prepared.
Yeah. Well, and I think and not saying I'm right or wrong, but I remember when I first started, when I first became a head coach, and I remember just kind of we should try this. We should try this. This isn't working. We should try this. We should try this. And it feels a little bit that they're kind of trying to figure out what their identity is. And maybe it's what I said, what they did this weekend. But I think there's a lot of value in sticking to something and not being so stubborn. If you go a month this season and nothing's working, you're trying, you might need to make adjustments. But I do think when you're able to have an identity and when you're able to really put that work in towards it every single day, it's our team can get good at doing certain things because that's what we spend our time on, and so that's going to kind of be the message. If they are making adjustments or struggling, it's guys, if they're zoning, they haven't practiced that much, right? If they're pressing, they just started doing it, and just trying to really help our guys understand that we've seen it all. We need to be in a game where we don't know what they're going to do. It's just that much more important that we are who we are, and that we, press, create our pace, crash offensive glass, take care of the ball, and do all those things that we talked about. That really, all the schemes and all that, it doesn't matter if you don't do those things, right?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, it really is, and we've talked about this before. Hey, you're going to keep doing your thing. If you have to make an adjustment, you will. Right. But more than likely, it's just keep doing your thing until it starts working. Yeah. And it has so far, with being, 11-2 now, 10-2?
I think 11-2. I'm trying not to even, pay much attention to it, just trying to – it's weird. Normally I am. Normally it's regardless of if it's good or bad, I'm oh my gosh, we're 5-4. We got to win. And I know it's cliche and something that a coach would say, but I'm just really trying to focus on the next game, and in March or end of March or whenever it is, I'm just hoping oh, cool. That was a record. You know what I mean? I know we've lost twice, but we're really just trying to focus on the night, and then we'll switch gears and focus on the next one.
Well, perfect. Then let's talk about that next one. So we got Dawson after that, and you're going, I believe, to Dawson, correct?
Yeah.
And so I'm not actually sure where Dawson's at.
Glendive, Montana. You been there?
Montana. No, I have not. I've been to Billings, Montana. Anywhere near. or is it another like 3 hours north?
It's
northwest.
No, it's
Or
east.
Oh, east.
It's east on what is that goes through Billings? That interstate?
I-80? No, that's I-25.
94. Thank you,
94.
Zach.
Thank you.
Okay,
Zach, give him a shout out.
He's not even paying attention. He knew that. He has Glendive pulled up on the map. That's why. Yeah,
well, see, it's
see
good to
you.
know he listens to us.
That's good. That's good.
It's
Checking the sound and stuff.
Good to know that we're worth listening to.
Yeah.
I like it.
But yeah, they're good. They are receiving votes in some of the polls.
Oh.
We are not receiving votes in the media poll, but we are receiving votes in the national poll, which is kind of cool. Us and Gillette. And so this is a very interesting weekend because Gillette plays Dawson on Friday night.
Oh.
And at Dawson. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get up there and be able to see some of that game. Maybe not the whole game, but hopefully like second half. And then we play Dawson the next night. And so there's kind of, I think us, Dawson and Gillette are kind of in the same amongst like where the rest of the junior college world thinks we are. And so I think there's going to be some things that really shake out over this weekend. Not that it really matters, but I just feel like we've had a lot of success. I feel like we've dominated some opponents that are good opponents.
Yeah.
The teams that we've lost to, like we lose to North Idaho the third time we play them at their place. We lose to Monroe at a very big event that they're 17th in the country right now. And I do think that our guys, I could care less to be honest, but I think our guys deserve to go home Christmas break and have a ranking attached to it. And
be nice.
I mean, it does put a little target on our back, but I feel like we've talked about we're Casper College. Like we're going to have a target on our back regardless, So, but that game, another team that presses, another team that scores a lot of points, another road game. I mean, I think that this week is unique in the sense like we've only played one true road game. We've played some neutral site games.
That's true.
We've only played one true road game, and that was at North Idaho. We didn't do very well. But
we won't talk about that.
But yeah, new opponents, but two tough places to play. Dawson has a great crowd. They're very well coached. I mean, Joe Peterson's been there a long time. They've figured out a system that works for them. They've got multiple Division I players on their team. But last time we played them, we beat them last year pretty good the first time at Gillette, and then we lost to them at Dawson right after break. And I think it was like a 10-point game or something like that. And so another game, I think our guys want to go up there and win. It's not going to be easy, but another game that we just need to really focus on what we do. And we also need to focus on knowing that our Christmas break hasn't started yet, because this is a very dangerous week.
Yes. I mean, it is finals week too.
Finals week. You've got guys that, are going back home to London, to France, to Canada, wherever they're from, they get to go back and see their friends, see their family, and they've been away, just grinding in the classroom, on the court. But I can tell what I've told the guys, it's a lot more fun if you go home and you have the best possible record you could have. It's a lot more fun to go home and be ranked, and you're seeing some buddies that are playing on other teams, and you're the guy that's team is doing the best. And so, and we're going recruiting. I want to go to Vegas and be like, we handle business. It's kind of this, it's kind of this reprieve that you can just take a deep breath, get re-energized and focus up. But we have to just stay locked into this week. We got 5 days or whatever it is. We need to finish these 5 days off the court, in the classroom, and on the basketball court.
Absolutely. Well, we're here for you. We can't be there in person unless you want to travel to Scottsbluff, Nebraska or Glendive, Montana, which
Runza
absolutely could. And if not, well, I imagine they're going to have it live streamed, and I definitely love watching live stream because it's, like I said, you guys are just fun to watch. You have a great system that makes it a lot of fun. You got some great players. I'm ready for some basketball, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. It should be a fun week.
All right. Well, T-Bird fans, thanks again, and we will see you next time.